Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.
Welcome to the Empower to Integrate project. This is a platform for third country nationals to help them boost their visibility, amplify their voices, and share their perspective. It also aims to strengthen community empowerment and build social ties in Malta. Hi, I'm Naslee Mayhew, and I am the project lead strategist and radio host. Today, we will be talking about discrimination and how to create inclusive communities. And joining me in the studio, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Jasminder, a passionate humanitarian in the world of social entrepreneurship. She's one of the co-dreamers behind RAAH, a UK-based social enterprise founded in 2020 that champions creators from diaspora communities, not just putting them in front of the camera, but behind it too. Through its creative agency work, RAAH invests its profits into community-driven initiatives across the UK, Malta, and Gozo, where Jazz lives. If you ask her who she really is, she'll tell you one simple truth. She's someone who genuinely cares about humanity and always shows up with purpose. A warm welcome, Jazz, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'd also like to introduce Renee Laiviera. She is the Commissioner of the National Commission for the Promotion of Equality, NCPE, and Acting Executive Director, with extensive experience in public service and NGOs, including roles in the European Women's Lobby and the Malta Confederation of Women's Organizations. Renee is also an independent member of the European Commission Against Racism and Intolerance and serves on the Advisory Committee on Equal Opportunities for Women and Men. Hello and welcome, Renee. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
You're welcome. Jazz, as a mother and a third country national, what does an inclusive community look like for you, especially in the context of Malta today?
In an ideal world, it would be a place where I feel like I could live here long term. Mm-hmm. Right now, I feel like I'm in a situation where I'm thinking, do I really want to raise my children in this country? Because already in their early years, I've been here almost 5 years, and my children are 2.5 years old and 9 months old. And already in those 2.5 years of me having kids, they've already experienced racism. They've already had their touch of kids pulling their hair, making fun of them. And my toddler coming to me saying like expressing that someone has just touched their hair, made fun, right? Mm. And so I'm thinking of all these, in short, I don't know if I could live here.
Okay.
And that makes me think that right now it's not in a, I don't know if that answers the question a bit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you for sharing that. It's quite personal as well about your children. What would you like to see change that would encourage you to stay in Malta?
For me, it would be, when I focus about the children, it's like that there is more understanding, especially with the adults, to help the younger generation to be more inclusive. Mm-hmm. So when I have a story, like only a week ago, I was in the playground, and even though I had already reported it a few months back, there is still words, the N-word, written all over the playground, like in the wood. Mm-hmm. So they took it off all the plastic, and it had like the words Nazi and all these things. And it actually ended up in the Times of Malta, and then within 24 hours, the mayor acted on it, which was amazing. But there were still words that they couldn't remove. And for me, in an ideal situation, we would just completely remove and start again, and helping the parents to see that, look, whatever we're speaking at home, it does go down to our children. The children don't know what the N-word means. Mm. They don't really know what it means, but they're saying it. Yeah. They're spelling it out. They're playing with the word as if it means nothing, but it means a lot. Mm. So, yeah.
So having that change. Thank you for sharing that. Renee, what progress has Malta made in terms of gender equality and intersectionality, and where do you see room for growth?
As you know, we are an equality body. which means that we investigate cases of discrimination on the basis of race, ethnicity, gender, sex and responsibilities, age, religion. So we although our legislation does not cover intersectionality, when we are investigating, we look at issues of intersectionality. If it's a woman who is wearing a hijab and she's being discriminated against, yes, that makes a difference. There's an intersectional issue there. So we would look at that. If there is a black woman who is being discriminated against, again, it is an issue. So we do look. Not only do we do that, but we also, in our promotion of equality work, which we do through awareness raising, through training, through organizing conferences, we also cover the intersectional aspect. For example, to create awareness, we have in 2022, we organized 2 conferences as usual, but both of them, part of each conference focused on the intersectional issue. The first one was to talk about what intersectionality is, so that the people present would understand better what we're talking about, because it was still a new area. Not many people understand that being a woman plus something else is a stronger position for discrimination, than just, if you see them separately. So we were trying to discuss the issue of intersectionality. And then in the second conference, we invited people of different backgrounds, who would have an intersectional issues if they're discriminated against, and like a gay man, for example. They shared their experiences, how they face their discrimination at an intersectional junction. What makes it worse, and why do they face this discrimination? And so we have been trying as part of our work. But more than that, now we've also had during Europride 2023, we had a community discussion as well on intersectional discrimination, but experienced particularly by LGBTIQ community. So we have been discussing that. And obviously when we give training, because we give training to public officers, to teachers, to students, to private company employees, we talk about, obviously, our legislation. We discuss what discrimination is. That includes also the intersectional aspect. And so we do this with regard to complaints. So yes, we do work on that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. That's quite a wide variety in terms of how you are addressing, the gender, equality issues that are being faced here in Malta. And from your side, just hearing this after sharing your experience with us, how does that make you feel that there is work being done behind the scenes to create a more inclusive society in Malta?
Oh, obviously, I'm very grateful that this kind of work is being done. I think, though, sometimes it can be frustrating that, it's not a job that you'll see solved tomorrow. And yesterday I was talking to someone saying, we can't just expect racism just to change overnight. This is something that we're trying to help our next generation not to have to go through the same situations. Like when my child got literally called a chimpanzee, that they look like a chimpanzee, when they're the most cutest babies ever, and I get told by many people that they're beautiful. That one person made that comment, oh, they look like a chimpanzee. It makes the biggest impact, It kind of disregards all the positive comments. And so this work that the NCPE is doing, I feel like is totally vital. What would be amazing is how to encourage more people who are from third country national status to be able to attend these kind of meetings, to get them more engaged. Usually it's because everyone's working really hard jobs and they can't attend a conference that's in the middle of the day. But it'll be amazing to see how those kind of things can shift, and so that there is more integration in this kind of policy making and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think also having this platform where we're sitting here today talking about it. So even if you're driving in your car or you're sitting at home, watching the news, or going onto Facebook, you can go onto Newsbook and see it. So for those who can't attend because they have, family matters or work commitments, that this work is being done in different forms as well. Thank you for sharing that there. Renee, how can legislation and policy better support marginalized communities, particularly women and third country nationals?
If I may pick up a point that's just been raised.
Please do.
We have been working on a project which is EU funded to look at how people of African descent and Muslim women and men face discrimination, to understand better what the issues are. And as just been mentioned, it is very difficult for people who are employed to come to have discussions with us during the day. So we worked very hard to contact them and to meet them in the evening or at weekends. And we had small groups, focus groups, of women and men together with the different backgrounds, or men separately from the women, because they may be more comfortable speaking in a segregated context, especially the women. So we worked very hard in order to make it possible, and I believe we came also to Gozo to meet TCNs in order to understand, and not just TCNs, because with regard to the Muslim community, there are multi-citizens, whom we call multi-citizens, who are also Muslim, whose religion is also Muslim. So we wanted to understand, especially with the women, because the men, you can't tell if they're Muslim or not, but with the women, especially when they wear the hijab, then they're more identifiable. So we tried to understand better what their issues were, so that we would be able to address them. You mentioned legislation. One way would be the legislation. What we do with legislation is we give our input with an intersectional perspective in documents which the government and legislation, for example, policies, strategies, which the government publishes for consultation. And we give our input in that way, how they can be better strengthened to ensure equality on the various grounds, but also equality based on race. With regard to policies, we've had the government department and strategies who have worked on strategies on gender mainstreaming, on anti-racism strategy. So there are strategies which, for example, they all specify that the ministries are committed to addressing the intersectional aspect of gender with other grounds, because usually the two main grounds are gender and race. These are the two main, even the reports that we receive, these are the two main grounds. So the ministries are particularly urged to cover the intersectional aspect in their work, with not only just gender and race, but also disability, for example, religion, age, so sexual orientation. So you have to look at those issues as well as with the anti-racism strategy. It's the same thing. There is an interministerial committee meeting meetings regularly on anti-racism. How are we going to implement the anti-racism strategy? The equality body, the NCPE, has also worked on a tool for ministries, for public officers, to help them better understand how to address racism in the institutions. Because the institutions are an area where institutions are run by people. And if people have a certain mentality, then the service that is being given is given in a certain context. So it is very important that we look at those issues as well.
Thank you very much for sharing that there. Thank you. I just wanted to go over to Jasminda and ask her, all that you've heard so far and what you shared with your own son as well. How do you manage to balance what's happening, like you said, the words that you see and how people treat your family, but still bring in your own culture and your values and beliefs?
I think even in the NGO world, I get really frustrated. And I say this quite often. Even within the organizations they put on 100% their attention on these topics, but yet they still get it wrong on how to be inclusive. Okay. And so there's for example, there's charities that might get a big pocket of funding, and none of that funding actually goes to anyone with lived experience. It just goes to pay salaries or pay for accommodation for a retreat or something like this, or a conference, for example. But actually, the funding could be used in a much more effective way if you hired someone with lived experience in that area that you're trying to make reach of. And they will naturally, not all the time, but most likely they will get that community to be involved. And that's the most easiest way to get people to be involved with any project. But a lot of charities don't do that. So already the people that are meant to be really focused on this are getting it wrong. So then why do we expect the rest of society to try and understand it? So I'm always very appreciative of what everyone's doing, and I always think it's steps forward. Even if it's a baby step, it's something. And my dad says when he comes to Malta, he says, this is what I had to face in the UK when I was your age, Jazz. So it's a progressive thing, and it can be very frustrating. Something that I try to keep myself very grounded in is I just, regardless of the NGO world or whatever initiatives I'm doing, I always try and focus on all the friendships I have within people who are in this community. So even yesterday, we took out 17 of the children from Halfa camp, the open centre, and it was the most beautiful morning, afternoon. Sadly, we didn't get a great audience, but the kids didn't notice it. And we took them to the cinema and they absolutely loved it. And that kept, these kind of activities keep me grounded. And this is just me off my own back. It's not with anything necessarily, I'm not getting paid for it, but this is what I feel like is necessary for my kids to also be involved with, seeing kids that look the same as them. They might be going through a more hardship time, but that's really important for my kid to see another kid with an afro, It's very important. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I can see how, your values and beliefs are quite strong in the sense, for your children. It's one thing when it's yourself or your dad, but when it comes to your children, there's another side of motherhood that comes out.
It's true. It's totally true.
Yes, of course. People close to us, help us understand issues better. Because they're very close to us, close to our heart. We love them. We want the best for them. Yeah. So obviously, you talk about them in a different way.
It's true. Thank you. Renee, discrimination can often be subtle. How can people become more aware of unconscious biases, such as language or beliefs in their daily lives, like in school or workplaces or casual settings? For example, saying to a person of color that you're very articulate is a form of discrimination.
Yes, often. I mean, what you've just said may not be that clear to persons, to other persons. So, you know, it's this challenge that we have to understand each other. And this is the biggest challenge, I think. Because even if we look at people of the same background, we are restricted by our stereotypes. You have these images of how people should react if you're a woman of a certain age or a man of a certain age. We have these ingrained ideas which we've been building over the years, that this is how people should behave. This is their role in life. And you said you have been here for 5 years, but 25 years ago, Malta was very homogeneous. We had people coming in of different cultures and different backgrounds, but they didn't stay for long. So we can't say we were not mixing with other cultures. We were. But they would come and they would go. They wouldn't settle. So for us, and I think it is important not only for the Maltese to understand people coming to Malta with different backgrounds and cultures, but even for the people who are coming to understand our challenges. Because we do have challenges. We need to question our way of thinking. Why do we say such things? Do we understand what we're saying? Do we understand the messages that we're giving out to the people who are listening to us, to the people around us? Do we want these messages to be given to people we love, for example? So, you know, this is why we say we focus, first of all, we have to focus on the type of work that we can do as an equality body. NGOs have their role. Individuals have their role. But an equality body, we have our specific role and we have to work in that context. If we have a new project, we can't just decide what to do with the funds we are given, but we are constrained within the regulations of that project. And in fact, this is why I mentioned the project we're having, because we brought together people of different backgrounds, of different ethnicity, of different religions, so that they could also understand each other. They talked amongst themselves, but also they shared. And that is very important. And we found that even among TCNs, you have groups who do not get on very well together. So it's just, and this is a challenge, another one for us. So when we're talking about inclusivity and integration and the strategies we have and the work we have to do, and we look at it from an intersectional perspective, we don't only have to look at the Maltese and how we can help them, challenge them to rethink their way of thinking, but also to see what is happening within, because there are quite a good number of different people with different cultures who are living in Malta and who may not see eye to eye with each other. So there is also that issue of inclusivity there, and it's even more challenging, especially for us who are still trying to understand the differences. For example, I am a member of the Council of Europe Anti-Racism and Intolerance Committee. And the issue, for example, when we go and monitor countries, one of the hot issues that comes up is Roma people. And there I've learned a lot. Why? Because in Malta we don't have Roma people. So the situation is, but still the racism is there. The discrimination is there. And the way and the tools you have to address them basically are the same. So this is the issues these are the issues that you have to look at from the ground perspective as well. I mean, we are an equality body, but we try to understand what is happening on the ground. And this is why we try to talk to NGOs working in this area, because NGOs are the people who really know what is happening on the ground.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that and the complexity of what Malta was like 20 years ago compared to now, where foreigners would come and go, but now they're staying and, you know, having their families. And
Exactly.
so there's that threat or insecurity from the Maltese side, where then the discrimination and racism, you know, comes out. But Jazz, is there anything else you'd like to say, you know, with your advocacy work that you're doing with RAAH and just examples you used about taking the children out? Any other tips that you can give people so we can bring this awareness more to the forefront of our minds?
Yeah. Whilst you were speaking, I was actually thinking of moments really that only happened about a month or so ago. I feel like I get every few weeks I get another story to share. But I was in the hospital with my son, and the care is amazing. I can't fault like the care in Gozo and Malta. I absolutely love in comparison back home in the UK. It's outstanding. And so I'm not trying to out anyone or anything like this. But the nurse came up to me and she was like, you really did well to be in Malta, to get free healthcare, to get free buses, free everything, free school. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, after I've been speaking in a very broad British accent, she thinks I'm from India.
Yeah.
She really thinks that I'm not from the UK. I've had many conversations with her, and she just absolutely thinks I'm from somewhere else.
Yes.
And this isn't her meaning to be offensive to me.
No, not at all.
But she doesn't realise. Yeah. And and another really, if I've got time to share, like one of a story. This happened 2-3 years ago. Absolutely frustrating. But I got told to go to this certain place to get my car insurance. I've just bought a car, need to get insurance. I'm being referred to this place, and they say no. As soon as I sit down, they're like, no, we're not giving you insurance. I said, what? Why? Like I said, but I've got a British license. Like I've got a license. No, because immigrants like you, they said the Nigerians, the Indians, the Somalians, you're all the same. You always allow other people to drive your cars. And I literally showed him. I said, but please, I've just been told to come to you. It didn't help my situation that I brought my friend who's got a massive afro. But he's also from the UK.
But there are Maltese people where they're from.
But then what's crazy about this story is that this same guy, all these years, every time I see him, he goes, hi, how you doing? You know, he doesn't realise that he was super racist to me.
No, he doesn't.
Literally, I see him all the time. He's waving at me all the time. Yeah. Even when I'm driving my car, he's waving.
Yeah, that you got the license for.
But this is it, you see. People don't stop and think
yes,
about what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is what's been stored in their minds over the years.
Yeah.
The messages that they've received over the years. And they don't stop to question. Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah. It makes sense. And from what you've shared as well, what the work that NCPE is doing is to raise this awareness, to bring it to the forefront, that the statements we make or the words we use in our homes, our children are taken to the park or to school, you know, what a teacher may say something. And that's the work that you're doing as well. As we close off, is there any tip that you'd like to give the audience to raise this awareness around discrimination?
One of the issues that we found would be very helpful would be the intercultural mediators, because we found that with people coming from abroad, you're very fluent in English, but obviously you come from the UK, and not just from the UK, just English. You speak very good English, because we meet many people coming from the UK who don't have your standard of English, but anyway. But there are many people who do not speak English, and this is a drawback for them, a very big, because they are misunderstood. They find it difficult to communicate what their needs are, what their requirements are. So we have this year we have made a proposal to government to provide funds to train, to have more intercultural mediators. For example, when you go to hospital, you mentioned hospital, you go to hospital. If you can't explain what What's wrong with you? It is very difficult for the doctor, for the nurses to try and help you. They find they have a long queue waiting. They find it time consuming. So if you have these intercultural mediators available, it will make life easier for everybody's concerned. You know, so that we think from the recent focus groups that we've had that this should help on the ground, as you were saying, people's everyday life. Because even if you go to school, they're there. We're talking, we also were suggesting, because we had people telling us, listen, young women especially, it's true that childcare is free, but for us to be able to go for an interview, to get a job, we don't have childcare services. And we don't have any support here. So we cannot go for an interview. So we're saying, listen, free childcare should be available also to these women who need to go and find a job, because otherwise they can't find a job.
Renee, thank you so much for sharing that there. We could have a lot more, time and discussion, talking about this over and over, because it's so important and impacts on a daily basis. But I'd like to thank you for coming along to the show. And to our audience, I hope you enjoyed this session we had today. And just again, thank you to Jasminda and Renee for joining us today and just sharing their expertise, experiences, and yes, to a better Malta for all of us. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.